You're listening to The Upland Rookie, a podcast presented by Upland Brits, B Pro Kennels, Final Rise, and Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. And on today's episode, I sit down with my good buddy Mike Thompson of Upland Knife Company. We chat a whole bunch of bird dogs, his journey into uplands, and he shares some of his knowledge with us. Big thanks to our title sponsor, B Pro Kennels. B Pro Kennels is a small business creating ultra high quality and custom dog boxes for the gun dog owner like you and I. No matter how big your string of dogs, B Pro Kennels will make sure you have a box that fits your needs for you and your gun dogs. With an innovative storage design and built-in solar panel and battery bank for quick access to charging accessories like dog collars, lights, fans, you name it. This is a dog box unlike anything you've seen before. Check them out at bprokennels.com. Oh, and they're made right here in the USA. And this is presented by Inukshuk Professional Dog Food, the world's highest energy dog food, period. Inukshuk's dense formulations ensure your pup in training and your seasoned bird dog get what they need to succeed in the field. High protein for muscle recovery and retention, high fat for quick access to much needed energy. Inukshuk works hard so your dogs can work harder. Check them out at inukshukpro.com. This podcast is also presented to you by Final Rise. All good things start with a solid foundation. At Final Rise, all three of their premium Upland vests are built around the foundational waist belt to provide you all-day comfort and endless customization. With a secure waist belt and thin, high-quality shoulder harness, this is the vest you can load down with birds and walk all day in. Final Rise is creating high-functioning upland gear that delivers comfort, balance, and a lifetime of memories. Check them out at finalrise.com. And this podcast is sponsored by Trinity Bretons, home of the Épingle Breton, also known as the French Brittany. All Trinity Breton dogs are from champion bloodlines that are field-tested and family-approved. For over 33 years, Trinity Bretons has worked to offer you the best bred Épingle Breton in the country. Trinity offers puppies, the Trinity Upland Academy with George Hickox, started dogs, stud services, and a whole lot more. Check them out at trinitybretons.com. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Upland Rookie Podcast. I'm your host, Will Larson, and so good to be back with you guys for another episode. Just recorded this one the other day with my buddy Mike Thompson. You may know Mike over on Instagram as Upland Knife Company. He's a great guy. And he's putting out some fantastic custom-made knives that are super cool, so you should check those out at uplandknifecompany.com. But more importantly, I think Mike's just a great guy. He's got a lot of experience, knowledge, and has a really good way of sharing that with others. And so we have a good conversation. We get into a whole bunch of stuff. It's a wide range. I thought about breaking this up into two parts, but we're just going to let this roll as one episode. So again, Mike, I appreciate your time sharing that with us today. Before we jump into the episode, one thing I've gotten a few questions on over the last probably a couple weeks. As we're getting colder here in Colorado, I know across the country, I mean, we got blizzards happening up in Montana and North Dakota and all that stuff. So I know it's been cold for a while, probably for some of you. You may hear me shivering a little bit in my garage right now. I think it's about 25 out here. But a couple questions as people messaged me about were what I do with my dogs in the winter around the house. And so a lot of you have seen that I have a couple outdoor dog runs. I've sectioned off the side of my house that I have another dog run. It's very large, mostly for gauge. And so they're like, hey, what do you do? How do you keep them warm? What are some do's and don'ts with dogs in the winter, being outside mostly? And so I just thought I would just cover that briefly. Again, this is no expert advice, I guess. This is, again, what I've learned personally, what I've talked with other folks about who have kept dogs for many, many more years than I have. But again, it's kind of some things I've learned. Maybe it's helpful for you. So starting off, my wife runs a in-home business out of our house. And so she's got a lot going on, the kids. She just does not have time to really have our dogs inside with her throughout the day. It's just one more thing she would have to think about, and it's just not fair to her. And so we kind of agreed when we got all these dogs that it'd mostly be outside dogs. And so my dogs are inside about only, I'd say 10% of the time, honestly. They'll come in the morning, like it's about 5:30 right now. I had them inside with me for about 10 minutes, drinking coffee on the couch, and then they're back outside. And so my dogs are mostly outside dogs. That doesn't mean when they're inside, they're nuts. Again, they've been inside enough that they kind of know the routine. They have the living room and kitchen is kind of where they can go, and that's that wasn't, I guess, instilled in them when they were pups. So we didn't let them have free run of the house. And so they kind of know the drill when they are inside. Other than that, so on the side of our house, a while back, kind of my first project when we moved in here was fencing off the side of our house. We have a side garage door that's kind of Gage's domain right now. So put a bunch of pea gravel down. And he's got a dog igloo out there, water pail, and that's about it. that's his little kingdom out there. And some of you ask why pea gravel. That's a great question. Honestly, it's a great question. I guess I've seen other people do it. I've seen other people with their dog runs having pea gravel down. I know when the dogs pee and poop, it kind of drains well, easy to clean up. I mean, I didn't have the funds to do a concrete slab, so went with pea gravel. It's been really nice. Doesn't get super hot when the sun hits it. So pea gravel's what I have chose to use for all of my dog runs. But anyways, so that's kind of what his setup is, and then the other two, so Win and Mac, they're kind of on the other side of the house. I have two of those. I think they're called Retriever Series dog runs. They're like 10 foot by 5 foot or something like that, or 8 by 5 foot. Super nice dog runs. I have those side by side, and again, pea gravel down, and then they each have a dog igloo. So I guess the important thing here, and kind of the meat of the conversation, was going to be around like winterizing and what's kind of the routine for that, and some do's and don'ts. So I guess first off with water. So they all have a water pail, and wintertime, surprise, surprise, water freezes. So summertime, they all have their big, I think it's like a 6 or 9 quart water pail. Well, wintertime, right about this time of year, I need to do this still. They each have a heated water pail. And so I run some extension cords, I kind of staple them up high, run them alongside the house, and then drop them down and hang them off just a little hook. And so those have been a lifesaver. Again, for the first year or so, I kept having to like dump water, bring water in at night, and then put it back out in the morning so it wouldn't freeze. So the heated water pails have been super nice. I think they're like $35 or something on Amazon, or Murdoch's maybe. I forget where I got them, but not super expensive, and it's been a really, really nice thing. Not having to deal with frozen water and ice and all that. So that's been super nice. All of their dog houses get. So last year I did straw, and this year I did cedar chips. I'm already noticing the cedar chips are a bit more messy than the straw last year. And so I may go back to straw. Jeremy actually sent me cedar, oh crap, what are they called? Cedar swirls or something? I forget what they're called, but it's like long strings of cedar wood. And he says a lot less mess. And so I may pull the trigger and buy some of those. I don't think I can find them locally. At least I haven't yet. And so there's a site I think Lion Country Supply maybe sells them. So I may look into those just for less mess, or I might go back to the straw. Anyways, keep it in there for warmth. Dogs can curl up. Mac actually figured out really quick. This is the difference between Mac and Gage. So Gage back in the day, he didn't go in his igloo for like 2 years, I feel. Like he hated that thing. Mac is like day one. He's like, oh, I'll curl up in the igloo. That's where I can keep warm and all that. So kind of funny, but yeah. So I like to throw something in there that some bedding, something to keep them warm. Those igloos I think do a nice job of, again, blocking the wind, their body heat. They're going to get in there, stay nice and warm. And again, they're not out there in sub-zero. They're not out there in 10-degree weather. If they are, they're out there to go do their business, and then they're going to go back inside. So that's kind of the run. I guess it's kind of the essentials, I guess. Summertime, over each of the dog runs outside, I put a sunshade tarp over. It's kind of the one that has it blocks 80% of the sun, so you can get airflow through. When it rains, it doesn't get super heavy. Gage has the same thing on the side of his, with his dog run. So they all get those in the summertime, and then I take those off about, I don't know, October-ish here. Because start getting cold and snow, and we don't need those tarps caving in. So those are in the summer. They come off for the wintertime. And then kind of the routine is they're out there. So, they come in, inside with me in the morning for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I put them out on their dog runs. Again, Win and Mac are separated. Gage is separated. And then they're out there basically until they go to bed at night. And so at nighttime, they don't sleep outside at night, no matter what the temp is. And so they have their gunner kennels in my garage. And so they all come in at night and go right in their kennels. And so that's been kind of the routine. It's been the routine that's worked for me and them. So again, I'm sure there's lots of different theories. Some people are like, oh, how dare dogs don't live in the house. Well, yeah, they don't. My kids live in the house. Dogs live in the garage and outside. So anyways, I think that's about it. They eat different places. I don't like to feed my dogs just in the same spot every time. It's either one of two spots. It's either outside in their dog run or in their kennel. So that's kind of where they eat, especially when they're pups. I like to switch it up a little bit, where they don't get too dependent on one location where they're eating. So it's kind of nice having two spots where they eat. So anyways, again, just be smart about, I would say, temperature. Even in the garage, I have an electric garage heater. So when it does get cold in my garage, I have a thermometer. And so if it's super cold, I have brought all their kennels inside at night, and they've slept inside. If it's below zero or some crazy temps where I feel the garage is, again, probably not safe. And so I brought their kennels inside at night before, but they always sleep in their kennels, regardless. And, but again, I have the heater in the garage. So if it's, I don't know, I'm not going to throw temperatures out there, but if it's cold enough, I'll throw that heater on in the garage. It's up in the ceiling. So it's, again, do not blow a freaking space heater on your dog. Or don't, throw a Mr. Buddy heater on the garage and go to bed. Probably not a smart idea, but, so yeah, just be smart about the temps. I've thrown blankets over their kennels before at night if it's cold. Again, keep that body heat inside their kennel. So again, when it's super cold outside, super windy, if it's, something where I don't feel safe out, then they're just going to go outside, do their business, and then come back inside for the day, go back in their kennel. So you just got to kind of, again, manage what that looks like. Keep the dog safe, keep them comfortable. And, I think that's about it. So shelter, bedding, warmth for their shelter, water, tarp for the sun. So yeah, that's kind of my setup. There's some things to consider, maybe as you are looking into an outside dog run or what that looks like. Again, some of you might ask why I keep them separated. I want my dogs, it's a whole rabbit hole probably. I don't want a free-for-all going on. Again, sure, sometimes I'll throw them all together. I'll put the two boys together, something like that, let them have fun for an hour and then separate them. I just don't want a free-for-all going on 24/7. I want my dogs to be able to learn how to relax. It's not a party every second of every day. And so I want them to learn they can be calm and chill and just relax in their dog run by themselves. I don't want them thinking, hey, every time I'm out here, we're wrestling and running and fighting and all this stuff. So I want them to just learn how to be chill. And they have, and that's just how I like it. I don't want a ruckus going on in my backyard. And so, again, That's just kind of what I've done. It's worked pretty well. So anyways, long-winded. So sorry. This has gotten way longer than I intended, but I got a couple questions about it. So I said, hey, that might be a good thing to mention on the podcast. So without further ado, we are going to jump into episode 67 with Mike Thompson. You just put a deck system in, didn't you, in your truck?
Yeah, and I love it.
Do you?
I wish I would have got one a long time ago.
Yeah. It's a good feeling when you get that all in there and dialed in with your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't as bad to install as I thought it would be. Like the parts just kept coming out of the box, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But,
I was gonna. I think I shot you a message when you were building it, and yeah, you said it wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't bad at all. Like they even give you a candy bar, so if you know,
they're putting those in the box now.
What's that?
I said they're putting those in the box.
Yeah, it's one of those nut rolls.
Oh,
so if you
that's awesome.
Start crying and need a timeout, you can munch on a candy bar. And,
I just reached for a couple cans of beer when I was putting mine in.
Oh man, I need all of my faculties for stuff like that.
I was putting mine in a blizzard basically. As you can see, my garage is not. I mean, it's filled with kid stuff and hunting gear, and so I backed my truck in as much as I could to the garage to try to get out from the snow. But I had to keep the door open then, and snow was blowing in. I'm freezing my butt off and trying to get this thing done at like midnight one day.
How many extra washers and screws did you wind up with?
You know what? A few, a few. I hope that was extra that they provided, but I'm not. Yeah, it's still holding up. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're. I just try not to think about it because I think I have more than a few.
Yeah.
But it's working out so far.
As long as you don't hear any rattling, right? You're good to go.
No, yeah. The rest of the truck's rattling.
Yeah, right. I think a tank. But anyways, Mike, let's dive in here. Put us on a map first. Where are you talking to us from? And why don't you just give us a brief overview about who Mike Thompson is?
Well, right now I'm in Hamilton, which is in the Bitterroot Valley, about an hour and a half south of Missoula, about an hour north of Salmon, Idaho. Been living here a few years. We moved to Montana during the pandemic, which was a lot of fun.
Okay.
And basically just been my dream to live in Montana, mainly to be closer to bird hunting and get my dogs on wild birds. Grew up in Washington State on the west side by Seattle and all that, and there's some pretty good grouse hunting there, but that was about it for Upland, unless you want to hunt planted pheasants. So
sure.
I'm used to driving.
So now you're like, wait, what do I do with all this extra time? Oh, I can hunt more.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, unless I'm grouse hunting, I'm literally at least 6 hours in any direction from where I need to be. So it kind of all works out.
Yeah.
But yeah, all we really have in the valley here is ruffed and blue grouse, and then further down south in Idaho, you got chuckers and huns. But
okay, and you have to travel a little bit.
It's a traveling.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
You got to travel a little bit to get to Idaho?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to go through a pass and then, down through the flats and stuff like that. So it's not bad. I shouldn't complain. But yeah, it's just mostly rough grouse hunting in the Bitterroot, and, then sharptails and stuff east is another 4 hours. So it's not bad either.
Okay. Oh, so you do have to drive a little bit still?
Still a little bit,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Again,
it's not like it was when I was living in Washington. I had to get like 2 days to get to eastern Montana.
Oh yeah, that's brutal. So where you're at, you're kind of more. I'm sorry. Did you say the northwest or southwest of Montana?
I think technically I'm like southwest.
Oh, okay. So are you more in like the mountain forest area?
Pretty much,
okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Just kind of Idaho is just like a stone's throw away over the mountains.
Okay.
And, lots of big game hunting. Like if you're a big game hunter, this is the place to be.
Oh, sure.
If you're serious about bird hunting, move a little further east.
Yeah, there you go. Move east. Well, that's awesome, man. How's your season been so far?
It's been great. I've been been running my Gordon pup. He's been really coming into his own. Been getting after rough grouse and sharp tails. Haven't gotten to as many huns as I wanted to, just because I'm trying to steer clear of anything remotely that looks remotely like pheasant cover, because I just don't want to deal with them.
I'm guessing they're low on your list.
Just for a young pup, they're real low on the
Sure.
list. Like, he ended up getting into a whole bunch of them, and we're over on the far east side, and he ended up just running himself ragged chasing those things, and which kind of worked out, because then the next covey of sharp tails we got after, he was like, I don't feel like chasing these. We'll just let these ones go. And,
he learned something.
yeah, and he's kind of been staying that way. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm kind of just done chasing birds.
Interesting. He sounds like he ran his little heart out, and he's like, I'm good.
Yeah. That week and a half in chasing sharp tails really just, his pads were thin by the time we got back.
Geez.
But yeah, it's just mostly been sharp tails and rough grouse so far.
Okay.
And
you've been doing pretty good on the rough grouse?
This year's been really good. The early September, like opening weekend, there was just birds everywhere, and I kind of tuned it back because they were really young. Like, all the birds that I've run into this season seem like they're totally against like the norm. Like, they hatched later than in years previous, and like from the rough grouse to the sharp tails and the huns. Like, I got into a covey of huns mid-September that were just like the size of robins.
Oh gosh.
And it was like, okay, well, I don't need to bother these.
Sure.
But yeah, the rough grouse has been really good. And then it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know if I just haven't figured out Montana grouse yet, or it's just the way things are going, but it's like you're just thick as thieves. And then by the end of September, they just disperse. And then you're just finding like one or two here and there.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see. I still have a lot to learn about the grouse here, though.
Oh, totally. With rough grouse, so I know blue grouse, they'll reverse migrate, they'll go up higher. Do rough do the same as well, or do rough kind of stay at the same elevation?
I think they pretty much stay at the same elevation. Like, they might move up or down depending on snowfall and stuff like that. Okay. I think like the rough grouse in Washington State would actually, like, if we get a good hard snow, it'd be raining down lower and snowing up high. I'd find all the birds up high in the snow, but then they'd move back down.
Okay.
I think they kind of prefer to stay in the drier snow, if you will, than rather being in the rain. But roughs are pretty much, rough grouse cover looks the same no matter where you're at. Usually.
Sure. Interesting. And so I know you mentioned you've seen a lot of young birds early on in the season. Now, were you seeing that kind of on like Montana wide where you were hunting, or again, did you get more rain more on the western side than the east side, you think, or what was up with that?
For me, Montana wide, like definitely. Let me rewind. So, rough grouse and blue grouse, all the birds that I found were really young broods. Like the tails hadn't grown out yet, or even close, and real small size. Eastern Montana, I was finding that to be the case with Hungarian partridge and sharp tails. But then, like, north central Montana, I don't know if it's because of the drought or what, but all the sharp tails I was finding were small coveys, and they were all mature birds.
Interesting.
So I think they must have had a bad hatch or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, it's always so hard to tell, just with, again, because I don't know. I'm sure there's years we can have a drought and it's still okay, and they hatch early, so it's hard to tell year to year.
Yeah, it's almost easier to find them in the drought,
right?
Because it's just everything's so isolated, and you can kind of, instantly look across the vastness and see patches of green where everything's brown.
Totally. Well, Mike, we're going to unpack a little bit more about hunting, Montana, birds, all that good stuff. But let's back up a little bit, and let's jump back into, I guess, your upbringing and intro into upland hunting. Now, upland hunting, was that something you did when you were young in your family? Like, what led you to this love for chasing birds?
So teenage rebellion. My family are totally anti-hunting. It's murder to kill
Oh
an
gosh.
animal, but it's totally okay to get one that's wrapped in cellophane at the grocery store. That doesn't
So,
count,
so
but it's
they're telling
murder.
you this in the Chick-fil-A drive-through.
Yeah, right. And they're totally against, not totally against guns, but like against guns in the kind of like go with the crowd against guns. It's
Okay.
part of the being the anti whatever. And so I think, like, looking back on it, I kind of think um, I picked up an interest. Like, I've always loved dogs. Dogs have been my thing. And then I saw a hunting show where they're using Springer Spaniels, I believe. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. And so then I brought it up to my folks, and I think their reaction triggered with my like teenage hormones. And they're like, no, that's murder. And I was like, well, I have to do this now.
Yeah.
And instead of getting into drugs and other mischief, I got into hunting in a big bad way.
That's awesome. So you're like, I'm just doing this.
Yeah, I was a really stubborn kid, and my mom was more or less supportive after she realized that this isn't going away.
Sure.
My dad totally against it, still is.
Wow.
We don't even talk
Okay.
uh, because of that, but ended up getting a Springer Spaniel. Like, I did everything you're not supposed to do. I just picked a dog out of a Craigslist ad and got a Springer Spaniel pup. I think I was like 13 or 14.
Oh wow, you were young.
Oh yeah, like I was all in. Like,
You're like, all right, give me a dog, give me a gun, let's go.
yeah, I was like fully formed. Like, I mean, it wasn't quite that easy. I had to like write reports on why like hunting was okay or why I should do it, and I had to take like uh, hunter safety
Oh wow,
as well as like
so the parents were kind of helping you along. Like once they knew this wasn't going away, they were had to kind of
Yeah, I think
help you in
they
some
like
way.
grudgingly accepted
Okay.
that this is happening. And but like I took an NRA gun safety class, and I was just pitching to them why hunting was like all the stuff you hear over and over again
Sure.
on social media about hunting's conservation, and which it is, but I'm sure my parents were sick of hearing
Oh
it.
sure. They're
And
like, yeah.
yeah, so anyway, then I got my dog, and I did everything wrong, and she turned out wonderful despite, like, I got that oh, what's that book that everybody gets? It's got a red cover.
Oh wait, it's right above me. It's called Gun Dog.
Yeah, that book has
Yeah.
some of the worst advice ever written in it. Like his the way you teach a dog to be cool around guns is you take them to a shooting range and leave them in the car.
No, that's in there.
It's in there. Yeah.
Clearly, I've not read this yet.
Yeah, and a lot, it still comes up every now and then. Richard Walters was his name, and I guess he was amazing at marketing and pretty good at dog training, but there's a lot of holes and a lot of problems. Funny. But he's way better at marketing than dog training.
Sure.
That's why his books have stood the test of time, while there's a lot better books out there that have not. But anyway, so somehow, despite doing everything wrong, that dog turned out wonderful, and I ended up taking. What was the deal? I missed I missed the deadline for the last hunter's training course we had to take, and I had to wait a whole year. And I ended up getting so since I was such a stubborn kid, I got like totally obsessed in that year because like I couldn't do it.
Okay.
And then after that, it was just like I did everything wrong you could possibly do.
And you were young still. You're probably what, 14, 15 now, right?
Yeah, 14, 15.
Jeez.
Like I'd go did a lot of duck hunting and hunting at the pheasant release sites.
Okay.
And just made every mistake you could possibly make. I don't know how my dog didn't die, just because like I'd never bring water with me,
Oh gosh.
It's a dog. Dogs don't need water.
Sure. You don't think about that when you're 15.
No. I didn't have any mentors or anything like that.
So you just went out and did it. You're like, I've seen what I want to do. I'm going to take my dog and go do it.
Yeah, it really grabbed a hold of me because like I tried, earlier earlier when I was younger, I'm going to try rock collecting. And I was like, this just doesn't do it for me.
It's not happening.
And for some reason, hunting it spoke to me. And, I was already a big time legend in my own mind fisherman.
Okay.
And so hunting's just kind of like the natural progression after that, I think.
Do you remember, so along your journey and I guess progression of upland hunting, like, do you remember like the tipping point for you? Like when did you, I guess, first start to realize, like, I don't know, like when did you first start to have some success? Again, you got your young Springer, you're young, like figuring things out. Like, do you remember like kind of that moment where like you started to kind of figure things out a little bit?
Figure things out, or there's one thing, having success like that. I just accidentally would, like, I remember I ended up saving some money to go to a preserve because hunting season wasn't open yet. And I ended up missing all the birds that I bought. Like, I bought 3 birds, that was like big money.
Oh, sure.
Like $75, I think. And I missed all the birds. And I was coming back and I got a hen pheasant somebody didn't shoot the weekend before. And I was just like, I blew it to smithereens. But the dog getting excited over that was the thing that really like cemented it in my mind. And then I remember going grouse hunting for the first time on the Olympic Peninsula with I had a buddy who was into hunting as well. And my parents dropped us off. And I remember being at the truck and I dumped a box of shells in my pocket. And I was like, well, you never know. And I dumped like 4 more boxes into my pocket. And we walked around for hours and hours and hours on our first grouse hunting trip. And I actually shot a blue grouse.
Oh, wow.
And it was just one of those things that just, like, once you get that first one, it burns in your brain.
Yeah.
But it's always about the dogs for me.
Sure. That's what kind of sounds like drew you in at first and kept you in it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I wouldn't bird hunt whatsoever. I wouldn't do any hunting, honestly, if I didn't have dogs.
Sure.
I would feel like some of these guys that hunt that are like, what's that guy's name? Edgar Hunt Birds on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
I just plugged him. I don't know how he can do it. Just walk around and,
Yeah, he does it. He's walking around, no dog, and having a blast.
Yeah, I mean, you can, definitely, obviously do it, but sure. I draw all my confidence from the dogs.
Totally, yeah.
So it's like it kind of takes you out of your head, and you're just watching the dog do their thing, watching their body language and stuff like that.
Totally.
But
I don't think you're alone in that feeling either.
No, that's one of the things I love about this sport is that you meet, I don't know, a dozen bird hunters, and you pretty much met them all.
Yeah.
You can just bump into one,
sure.
share a great day in the field, and just, be complete strangers.
Oh yeah, and pick up like you were, long lost friends, chatting in the gas station parking lot.
Well, for sure.
That's awesome. All right, and then I guess kind of walk me through your progression of dogs, I guess, a little bit. So you had your Springer. Like, again, what was that tipping point to get your next dog, and what was that dog, and what led you into that?
So the next dog I got, I was living in the Skagit Valley, Washington at the time, and basically, if you didn't duck hunt, you weren't doing anything. And so my Springer was 4 or 5 years old, or no, she wasn't even that old yet. I ended up getting a lab out of Craigslist because that's where you get your dogs.
Of course.
And he got a chocolate lab, and he ended up going blind at 1 year old.
Oh, geez.
And he had some of the worst hip dysplasia the vet had ever seen.
Oh, gosh.
So, living testament to make sure you find a good breeder.
Amen.
And, it's worth whatever they're asking for.
Sure.
A good breeder can charge whatever they want. But anyhow, got the lab, and that tried duck hunting with a blind lab, and he would dive after ducks. It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Like he'd sit, because it had the fundamentals down of
sure.
blind, like, no pun intended, blind retrieves.
Oh, gosh.
So you'd line him up and he'd go out there and he would, like, in still water, he'd sniff around till he'd smell the duck. And sometimes they were crippled and they'd dive and he'd dive after him.
Wow.
And he'd just use his nose. And it was, obviously it wasn't like, oh, we were doing this 7 days a week all season long, but we had some success.
Yeah.
And but his hips were so bad he couldn't really hunt too much, and it was just kind of one of those tragic things. And I had the Springer for most of all my teens, and then into the early 20s, and I jumped ship and went to German short hairs for a while.
Okay.
And I really liked those a lot. This was all before GPS, and
Sure.
Grouse hunting with them was, I don't even know how I did it. I mean, there's a
Gosh.
lot of in Washington, super thick rainforest.
Oh, yeah.
You spend a lot of time looking for your dog and a lot of time shooting grouse because they'd all flutter up in trees by the time you get
Oh,
there,
okay.
and what have you. And then we'd start heading east and doing chucker hunting and stuff, and that was a lot more manageable because you could see a long ways. But had the short hairs, had a litter of those guys from an accidental breeding, and had a lot of success with them. Did some Nastra way back in the day,
Okay.
and really enjoyed Nastra a lot. Just the competition side was great, but it seemed like the people that you would meet in Nastra were always just excellent, super helpful people.
Oh, yeah.
And like the camaraderie was just, I remember it fondly. I'm looking to start back up again.
Absolutely.
And then ended up getting a divorce and getting rid of my short hairs, and then went to Gordon Setter, and that dog was amazing. Just the personality wise, bird finding wise, it was like just a wonderful dog. And I got him out of Craigslist too.
No way. You didn't learn your lesson from the lab?
No. This was back before the internet was like just everybody had
Sure.
it. So it was like,
all right. Well, here's an obvious question. I got to pause you in the story then. So you went from a pretty common like GSP, everyone's got them, kind of classic bird dog, to a Gordon Setter. And again, I don't know what time frame this is. Like, what led you from the GSP to a Gordon Setter, which is, I mean, I would classify even now maybe a little rare, right?
Yeah, definitely not as rare as they were, but and good ones are rare. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but good hunting, like Western field style Gordon Setters are not super common.
Okay.
And it was just one of those things. Like I remember, gosh, like Shotgun Life, they had on the cover they had a Gordon Setter.
Okay.
And that whole issue was about the Gordon Setter and the 28 gauge. And I was like, both those things sound amazing to me. And, later on the Gordon Setter popped up in Craigslist, and I was like, you never see that breed.
Wow.
And I'm for a long time, I was kind of like, I'd love to live long enough to have every breed of dog.
Sure.
Just to experience them all. But, anyway, at the time the Gordon Setter popped up, and I was like, well, give it a shot. It was like $400, I think.
Okay. Wow.
And talked to the gal, and she had a whole litter, a whole bunch of them racing around. And I picked the mellowest looking one, and it turned out one of his litter mates ended up being like a dual champ, or not a dual champion, but a Canadian and American field champion.
Oh wow!
And just Craigslist pick.
Wow,
I mean, crazy.
That's wild.
But I had him for a few years, and he's a great grouse dog. He was a great pheasant. Like just, he knew how to cut birds off and block them. And then he ended up getting hit by a car while my folks were watching him.
Oh no!
And we put him back together with a couple pins in his hips, and he actually ended up living another 3 or 4 years. And you would have never known. Would have never known that he was injured. He had just a slight limp, and he'd hunt all day long still, just the toughest dog ever. And
did he still hunt after that accident?
Oh yeah. Like I take him my first trip to Montana. I took him out there and ran him on sharp tails, and he was like a big pointer. Like heat didn't affect him. Like generally speaking, like I'm not hunting him in 90-degree weather, but like big black dog in the sun, he didn't get overheated real easy. Great bird finder. And I don't know, like he ended up, I don't know if you want to get into the weeds on this or not. It's kind of a long, weird story that I can't really verify, but I think that he had a bad reaction to the Red Rock vaccine, and that's what ended up
Oh,
taking his
okay.
life.
Oh, wow.
But anyhow, so had the Gordon, and then moved on to an English setter, who I still have today. He's like 13 years old,
Okay.
and got a
So you went from
lab
the
as well.
Gordon to the English, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Gordon to the English, and then ended up getting another Gordon after that didn't quite work out because he was like 90 pounds
Oh, wow,
and
big
just
boy.
more than I wanted to deal with. Yeah, he's a big dog. And ended up getting a lab too because I really enjoy flushing dogs
Okay.
and casual duck hunting. And both the English setter and the lab they're like 12 and 13 right
Oh,
now.
wow. Okay.
Um, and now I'm back to Gordon setters again. I got a Gordon pup
Okay.
as well as English pointer.
That's right. Yeah, you have a pointer now. Is right.
Yeah.
And so are your two? So the English and the lab are older now. So what are the ages of the Gordon and the English, or Gordon and the pointer?
The pointer is about 3 years old. I bought him I think he was almost 2 when I bought him last season. And the Gordon setter is a year and a half.
Okay.
And so this is like his first real hunting season.
Yeah.
And the pointer was the guy who had him before me was a guide, so he's got plenty of birds under his belt
Oh, that's
already.
awesome. Yeah, did you get him from Ryan?
No,
Okay.
from a different guy in Missoula.
Okay. Those are good looking dogs for sure. What so talk to me about, I guess, the again, your evolution as now training bird dogs, hunting with them, training. Was it just doing a lot of your own self research, like trial and error? Where'd you get your experience from? Did you use a pro trainer? Like, talk about that a little bit.
Um, my experience came from like reading everything I could get my hands on, and I just absorbed everything I could, and then I'd make a lot of mistakes and try to fix them, and then when I started up with Nastra, those guys helped me a lot. Like they set me straight and kind of helped drill into my brain that less is a lot more for dog training.
Mm.
You know, you can let the wild birds do 99% of the work, and just kind of add and subtract bits and pieces from various programs, which I wouldn't recommend anybody do. Like honestly, if you want to do it the right way, find a program and stick with it from the beginning to the end.
Mm.
But
Yeah, I think it's a common thing. Yeah, because I've done it. Like, I took a little bit of this, took a little bit of that, with Gage, my older dog, and he was getting confused. He's like, well, wait, we're doing this method, now we're doing this method. And so I think you do got to do your research, like you're saying. Like, you got to find what works for you, what makes sense. But then, yeah, stick with it. Don't, throw in all these methods in a crock pot and stir it up.
yeah, like if you know why you're switching from this guy's program, like from this element to that
Sure.
element, if you know why you're doing it, that's great. More power to you. But if you're like, I'm just skipping right to bird work because that's fun, and then going to try this or that.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have information out there that it's like, you just can't mix and match because part A is going to come back into play with part, D
Mm.
or, vice versa. And it just builds off it. But my approach now is just basically, I like starting with a young puppy and just kind of brainwashing them so that everything they do, they think is their idea. And, as far as bird work goes, I like to steer clear of pigeons as much as possible. I mean, I'm fortunate to have wild birds at my disposal,
Sure.
but I've done the bird launchers. I've done it if you got to use pigeons, I feel for you because a lot of people that's all they have,
Sure.
and you can definitely do it, but a lot of people miss out on getting their dogs to work wild birds, and just like people are like, oh, my dog's 9 months old and he's broke. It's like, that's great, but he never learned how much he can push a bird. He never learned, like a young
Sure.
dog that's ripping wild birds over and over and over again. As long as some kind of progress is being made, that's a good thing, you know. As
Sure.
long as they're not just chasing them over the horizon every time, if they're learning like,
Right.
oh well, I can push it this far. Next time I won't push it quite so far, and then you wind up with
Right.
a pretty solid dog on wild birds.
Totally.
But with pigeons, you never get that. And the answer is for with pigeons is launchers, but then you get a dog that's sound sensitive sometimes, and you can't do that.
Yeah, you can be
Like
super,
my
super
Gordon
careful.
pup. Yeah, my Gordon pup last year, like pigeon launchers scare the heck out of him.
Oh, geez.
That snap noise they make, even the DT systems, which are a lot quieter than
Sure.
most.
They still make a little rattle, a little pop, and no, you're right. I mean, it can. Yeah, you have to be super, super careful with those. My mentor of mine, he has a bunch of launchers, but he takes like 2 launchers and designates them for puppies, and he actually takes one of the springs off, I think. So when
That's smart.
it does pop, I mean, it's still making a sound, but it's noticeably quieter and easier than the ones with the 2 springs. But I thought that was kind of clever, but because you're right, they do make a noise for sure.
And some dogs just don't care. They're like,
Yeah,
whatever, there's a bird there.
totally.
But yeah, like my Gordon pup, which Gordons are kind of notorious for being sensitive dogs. He would like just recoil and jump like 3 feet back
Oh,
when
wow.
the pigeon launcher would go off, and that led to a whole bunch of other issues. And I tried, I'd bolt boards to it and stuff to kind of dampen the vibration, but it just
Sure.
never got. And then I was just like, okay, well, I can't do pigeons at all with them, so it's just wild birds only, which was a massive benefit for him.
Okay.
I just kind of, we do yard work and stuff and just all the mechanics without birds, and then just move on to wild birds. And he's been doing great.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
Like he actually had a gun sensitivity. I think it was just loud noises in general when he was a pup. And I thought like, oh boy, he's not even going to be a bird dog. And after doing a bunch of like positive pigeon drills and stuff like that, if he hears gunshots, he gets stoked now.
Oh, cool.
So,
that's awesome to see that turnaround. What is it? I guess talk a little bit more about the Gordon. Now you have that older setter. Like any big differences that you notice? Like why'd you go back to the Gordon a second time over the English?
So speaking in huge generalities, so I don't get beat up.
You can say whatever you want.
I love my English setter. What's that?
I said you can say whatever you want on here.
Oh, it's a safe place.
It's a safe place.
Setters.
Yeah.
Every Gordon setter I've had, like I had that one big one briefly. I feel like the average Gordon setter is tougher, smarter, probably more sensitive, sillier than and sillier than an English setter.
Wow. Okay.
And I also want to say from my limited experience, the average Gordon I've had has had a way better nose.
Really?
Than
Okay.
my English dogs. Like they find those needle in a haystack birds.
Oh, that's cool.
That, I've heard people say like, that dog that just creates birds out of nowhere. It's like every Gordon I've had has been like that. Like the nose on them has been unreal. But mainly what I love them for is just their personality. I mean, they're silly, sweet dogs, and they're super smart. I mean, to their detriment. Like it's like, they can pick up on the wrong thing, focus on the wrong thing. And then like my current Gordon right now, he, one time he pulled my shoelaces undone, and I thought it was funny, and I laughed, and he keyed in on that, and he's like, well, that's that made him happy.
Oh gosh.
So every day he runs up to my shoes and pulls my laces.
Oh gosh.
And he even did that to a judge at a hunt test.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's like, "What's your dog doing?" He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you'll see."
Yeah.
Zip, and he runs
Oh
off.
gosh.
Um,
That's funny.
and then like my first Gordon, I was trying to teach him how to sit, and they have some of them can be real stubborn and sensitive, which is a very tricky combination. But I'm on the bed and I'm trying to teach, put his butt down to make him sit and lay down. And I think I got frustrated and I shoved him over and I said, "Lay down." And the next day I come back and I go, "Lay down." And he threw himself on the
Oh
ground.
gosh.
And I was like, "Oh my God." And I did it again. He just flopped on the ground. So I kind of turned it into, I'd say, bang, into like a
Yeah,
gun
yeah.
motion
And
at
he
him.
just
And he'd
falls
fall
over.
over like he just got
Oh
shot.
gosh.
But they're kind of like, they're like those Asperger kids. They're just like, they tune in on stuff and they lock on it. Like
Yeah.
my current Gordon pup, I've never tried to teach him heel ever. And we were working on whoa. And for some reason he thought that's what I wanted from him. So he'd start healing like perfect. And I obviously it's something I did. I'm not saying the dog figured it out. It's
Sure,
something I
sure.
did that he picked up on
Sure.
100%. But it's like that's like burned in his mind. So now instead of saying whoa, I'll go whoop,
Oh wow.
and that seems to be enough of a difference for him
Oh
to
wow. So
not want to heal.
so whoop is to get him to actually whoa, and whoa is to get him to heal.
I'm not going to try to get him to heal.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the heck happened there. And like I said, it's my fault. It's always the trainer's fault.
Sure.
But I'm not sure what
That's
happened. He's
funny.
not telling me. So
That's funny. And you mentioned before too. Again, people I'm sure have lots of opinions on this, but like it's hard to find a well-bred Gordon. Is that
yeah,
still true? What you're finding today?
um, it's not hard to find a well-bred one. It's hard to find, like, Gordons are all over the place, right? Like the breed is all over the place. They have one of the widest standards for a dog breed. Like the standard is like the window of
Okay.
size that is acceptable. And I can't remember the numbers right off the top of my head, but it's one of the widest standards. And back in the day, there's actually two separate standards for Gordons. There's a small and a large,
Oh
kind of
wow.
like for Beagles. And so I think that kind of contributes to Gordons being all over the place, and you can wind up with, um, you know, dual bred ones that are kind of well, air quotes, hunt to dogs that are advertised as like hunting dogs that don't even know what a bird smells like. So if you're going to go for a Gordon, I think research is more as important as it ever was to find what breed, not what breeder you're after and what strain you're after. I'm probably butchering this, but like my current dog is from tall grass Gordons, and they're kind of like the anti-Gordon almost. Like they're not these big boned, huge
Sure.
dogs. They're about the size of a your average English setter.
Okay.
They range out, and in like on the prairie and stuff. My guy, he's going to go further, but right now he's kind of averaging 300 yards out, and he'll
Okay.
do some big pushes. Like he did a big one, almost 600 yards when we were chucker
Okay.
hunting
So they got some
weeks.
range in them.
Yeah, that line does.
Okay.
I mean, and then you have like Stephen Foss dogs that are more of like a grouse based line, and they're I want Steve. I'm sorry if I get this wrong, Stephen, but I want to say he's like 50 yards in the grouse woods,
Okay.
and
And are those the Stony Brook ones you see online?
yeah,
Okay.
and they're a bigger dog than the tall grass dogs.
Okay.
Like the tall grass dogs are fast,
Just built
and
different.
just built different. They still have the same Gordon Setter personality. They're just built better for Western covers.
Gotcha.
But my guy, like I take him grouse out in the rough grouse woods, he's just a joy to hunt with. Like he'll, 100 yards is a long ways for him in the grouse woods.
Okay.
Like he keeps it around 70 and checks back all the time. And he's literally everything I've ever wanted in a bird dog.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the Gordon Setters, like if that's the breed for you, you just got to really hyper focus on what breeder you're going with. You know, research. You know, there's like some breeds where you could get, you know, you get a good field bred English setter, and generally speaking, you'll get a decent dog,
Sure.
a decent hunting dog, or like a good pointer, you'll get a decent hunting dog. Both Gordons, I just feel like it's all over the place. Like another good one is Clear Cut Kennels in Minnesota, I think, or Wisconsin, I can't remember, but they have like a smaller, you know, 55-pound and under-ish Gordon that big time grouse hunting dogs, and then they come west and they win all kinds of field trials.
Wow.
Just big open cover. Like arguably one of the best Gordon setters, one of the best field Gordons that ever lived, Chucker Hill Buck Naked, I want to say came from Clear Cut Kennels and was trained by Trina Cardwell.
Okay.
But he's like, that dog, you know, he's got puppies all over the world.
Oh, I'm sure. That's pretty special to see a dog that's able to make that transition really well from, you know, tight cover grouse woods to the big country, and, you know, be able to bounce back and forth like that.
For sure. Yeah. I think, you know, it takes brains.
Yeah.
I mean, or if not brains, then just a real team player.
Sure.
You know,
to be able to adapt. And
yeah, like I get comments on Facebook sometimes like, oh, I can't believe your dog ranges that far. I'd never get there in time. And it's like, I'm not fast. I am a slow walker. You know, I see turtles passing me, you know. If the dog knows what he's doing, he'll hunt with you and hold birds.
Sure.
And if it takes all, you know, pheasants don't count, obviously.
Sure.
Because pheasants will be in the next country.
Little jerks.
Jerks. Nasty birds. But yeah, they're just great dogs. Like,
that's awesome.
And there's always exceptions. I'm speaking in generalities.
Oh, of course.
Anybody yelling at me.
Yeah. Calm down, everybody listening out there. Calm down.
But this is just my hot take on Gordon setters.
Yeah, no, they sound like great dogs, man. I mean, some of the photos you've posted, they look beautiful. Sound like really smart dogs, and that's always fun to see.
Well, and also they have an on and off switch,
sure.
Like as much as any breed I've ever had, where, you know, you got to live with them for the rest of the year.
Right.
And these guys just, you know, really well-mannered dogs all around. I'm looking forward to getting more of them, and, you know, maybe if things work out, having my own line.
That's cool. That's really cool. Do you ever do much chucker hunting, or have you this year, or is that something you prioritize on your schedule?
I don't want to say I'm a chucker hunter. I'm somebody who goes chucker hunting.
Okay.
I used to do it a lot when I was in Washington, and I went down to Idaho and did some scouting and found one small covey. I think it was last week. God, it seems so long ago. But that's something I'm going to be doing more of, just because it's so close to me. Like chucker, I think now that, you know, the mountains are closed down with snow, are going to be my closest game bird.
Okay.
And but yeah, when I was in Washington, I used to do it a lot. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's almost like the birds are not why you're out there. You're like there for the endorphins. And, you know, I tease other chucker hunters that, like, if there's trees up at the top of Chucker Hills, nobody'd go. Because it's nice to watch your dog.
Yeah, be able to see him in that open space, and it's definitely on my list to get to chase some chucker someday.
Yeah, and, you know, you don't have to kill yourself to do it.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, like you can, you know, you don't have to like go to the most extreme whatever. Just, you know, you can find places that are easy to hunt if you
take your time.
Yeah, we're not all Matt Davis.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Everyone, no, we're not all endurance athletes like him.
No, I'm not even fit enough to carry Matt's birds. I mean, but, you know, you can find checkers in places that are not brutal.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. One thing I was going to talk with you about, I know you and I have chatted online a little bit about this, and again, it's one of those topics that's always out there. People talk about is
politics.
No, that's a different podcast. That's a separate episode. But something just as hot as that is hotspotting.
Oh
And
yeah.
I forget who I was talking with. I touched on this a little bit. It might have been Steve Snell when I was talking with him. Maybe we touched on it very briefly. But like in your mind, I guess, like what is and what isn't hotspotting? And yeah, I mean, I've no agenda here, just to kind of chat about it a little bit casually.
Okay, so in my mind, what isn't hot spotting is if I say if I go to this state.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it kind of, it gets a little tricky. Like if you know where I live specifically, and I say I go to this state, then there's maybe you could do the math, but I think that's kind of the edge of paranoia right there.
Yeah.
But I think that is definitely not hot spotting. I think you got to be so it's so tough with Onyx because I love Onyx, but I also feel like it makes things so much easier for people to I don't know what you call it, reverse hotspot. Like, oh, somebody dropped a clue, and you can get on Onyx and kind
Then
of
someone can do their own kind of like, again, putting the puzzle pieces together to figure it out.
exactly.
Sure.
And I love Onyx. I use it, but I also think there's some detriment to it.
Sure.
But if you post, I think if you post a picture that's highly recognizable, like I don't think a mountain range counts unless it's like Mount Rushmore.
Right. It's like,
I
come on,
just
these mountains from a photo. Like, I mean, you gotta be a talented person to figure out a mountain range.
Oh, I mean, I can't even. It's I don't. If people can do that, then you're not going to stop them.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. Like I've been bitched out or I've been griped out before on. I posted some hills in the background. Somebody recognized, and it's like, first off, how can you do that? Like, how can you recognize that particular hill?
Oh my gosh.
And then second of all, like, how do you think? I mean, he was like really concerned that I just blew up his spot. And it's like nobody's going to know.
Yeah.
How could they know? But anyway, posting some kind of recognizable picture,
Sure.
obviously saying I hunted this particular drainage. I think that's definitely hot spotting.
Sure.
Anytime you make it way too easy,
Like just too specific, right? Like something that someone could Google or find very easily on Onyx, like like kind of what you're saying, like a sign, a drainage, things like that, a river.
Yeah, exactly. And if you leave it on a forum, like the forums are there pretty much forever. So anybody that Googles that river, that drainage, that county, that potentially could come up in their search if like you mentioned it on a Upland bird hunting forum or something. I don't know if those even exist anymore.
It's similar to like Facebook too, right? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime you make it easier for somebody and make it repeatable, I think that's the biggest danger. It's like this one thing, like overhearing at a bar, like, oh, chow, this town has a real good hatch this year,
Sure.
versus typing it and putting it online for the whole world to see over and over and over and over and over again ad infinitum. That's definitely hot spotting.
Oh, absolutely. So why do you think people get so pissed off about like state specific? Like if someone says a state, Missouri is amazing. Missouri has all these awesome birds. It's great. That pisses some people off pretty heavily sometimes, even though you're mentioning a state. Like, is it just they don't want you to come to their state, or?
I think that might be it, or it might also depend on the state. Like if you say Mearns quail hunting in Arizona, well, that's generally everybody goes to like one concentrated area, as far as I understand. Like there's one big Mearns metropolis in Arizona. So if you keep saying Mearns in Arizona,
Sure,
people can do the math real easy. But maybe I'm just stupid, or maybe I'm naive, or both. But I just don't see the harm in saying this, what state you hunted.
sure.
And if somebody wants to, let me know.
Yeah,
please let me know.
Yeah, totally. If someone out there has a good argument or good, I guess, reasoning, like, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to hear that. But yeah, I agree on the state thing. It's just, again, maybe if like Montana, I know Montana gets talked about a lot, and maybe that's part of it, of kind of like you said, the repetitiveness of Montana, you got to go. And so maybe that's some of it, of people are like, all right, like, again, you're going to funnel all these people to this one state, and so maybe that's part of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and some of it's I think some of it's paranoia that is substantiated. Whether you're paranoid or not,
Sure.
sometimes you have a good reason to be like Montana this season. I've seen more people hunting sharptail than I have in the last like 15 years of hunting it. Like it's been unreal. And I'm sure that's just mainly from traffic of all the podcasts and magazines. And I mean, it's no secret that Montana's got good hunting.
Right.
I mean, it just isn't. I mean, the locals think it is.
Yeah.
the locals, there's that huge fly fisherman, and he's like, if you're from Montana, your biggest complaint is the out-of-staters, even though you're not even from Montana. But I think as far as mentioning states go, there's only so much you can do and still be within the lines of sanity.
Sure.
Just get off social media, I guess, and never talk to anybody.
Right. It's like,
and you'll be safe.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. I mean, you have a good hunt. You want to post a picture, your dog, your buddy, whatever it is. Like, all right, what mountain range is behind us? Like, are we, what tree is behind us? Like, I think there has to be a level of like, I think be smart about it. Like, and then don't post the walking access sign. It has a number on it or something like that. Like, just, I guess, be smart about it would be my advice to anyone out there, I guess. But
well, yeah, I mean, I like this season I posted a picture and it had a BMA number on it, and somebody was like, hey, heads up. And it was like you'd have to zoom in on it to see that BMA number.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's my bad. And I took it down immediately because anybody, any of my followers or anybody on Instagram that wants to use the same hashtags I did could see, oh, he's at a BMA, and just zoom in and be like, yep. So, I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
And because also, if you think about it, if you're advertising all these spots that you found online, I mean, you're investing your time, your gas money, your vehicle, your dog, like all this stuff that is just so important to us. And then to just put a spotlight on it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you might as well just kiss it goodbye. I mean, spots can get ruined.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, they could. Yeah. People. Yeah.
Especially in states where there's systems with like BMAs.
Sure.
Or WMAs and stuff like that. You say, I was at this WMA. It's like, well,
yeah,
you just, grease the path.
Right.
But yeah, I think some of it gets pretty paranoid, and some of it gets pretty flagrant too.
Oh,
so,
for sure. That's a good.
Just use some common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it, almost paranoia, because there's this, again, some irrational things I've seen online, irrational statements and anger from people. I'm like, why are you this way? Like, what's going on inside of you that you're this pissed off?
You don't want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, you don't need to go on there. Yeah. They're if it's not that, they're going to be pissed off about something else for sure.
Exactly. Well, very cool.
But then also on the flip side, it's like, well, how come you only have so many spots? That you're so worried about. I guess I shouldn't say that, because like when you lose a hunting spot, it sucks.
Oh, sure.
Doesn't matter how many you have.
Yeah. Again, like you said, you put in the time to find that, or I guess we have to keep in mind too, though, that like, I don't know, I'm the only person that found that. I might like to think that. I might like to think I found this sharptail spot and I'm the only one that knows about it. But chances are, like, other people know about it. And again, I think that's like that paranoia level, like,
for sure.
We're hunting public land, like.
But then it's like, so I'd rather know why they're there rather than knowing that they're there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, it's for a long time it was like, I have these like X number of spots that I can find grouse in. I have no idea why they're there.
Sure.
And then you learn why they're there.
Yep.
And it's like the whole world opens up to you.
Yeah.
Because then you can find another spot.
Then you can go replicate it and find brand new spots. Yeah.
And then you can go anywhere that has, theoretically, that has whatever species of bird you're after, and you can find them.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't like hunting the same spot more than, once or twice a season anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the takeaway, is like, figure out why the birds are there. Don't figure out, don't try to snipe people's spots.
Right. No, that's an important thing. I think. I mean, it's just a good reminder for everyone, no matter how long you've been at this hunting, whatever it is. Like, it's a good reminder, I think, for people out there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you kill, like, no matter where you're at, whatever you're doing, if it's sage grouse, rough grouse, pheasants, if you kill a bird in a spot, always ask yourself why it was in that spot.
Yeah, and, like take your time, look around. What time of day was it? What was the weather like? Where'd the birds come from? Where'd they fly to? Like,
look at its crop when you get home or at the truck, and it won't be obvious,
sure.
90% of the time, but then you can kind of apply that to your next situation and be like, oh, this is the same as last time, but in a different spot.
Yeah.
I'm noticing a trend.
Yep. You start putting those little pieces together, and by the time you know it, you're starting to learn something.
Which, beats the heck out of like just being dependent on, oh, where'd you find grouse this weekend? Oh, I'm going to go to that spot and trample the same grass you walked on.
Exactly. Well, it's like, what's that saying? Like, teach a man to fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I forget how it goes. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever or something like that. I'm butchering it, but
I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Teach a man to fish. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life.
Yes, there you go. Oh, good job. Good job.
Yeah, good me.
Oh, how are those pet turkeys you have?
They're good and friendly. They're, especially now that the snow's come down, they make no bones about it that they're here for food.
Do you invite them inside yet?
No, I had one that would come into my shop. There was a couple times where he'd come in, like I'd keep the chicken feed in the entrance to my shop, and he knew that's where it was.
Oh gosh!
He'd come in and help himself, and a couple times the door would blow shut on him. And so then I'd come into my shop and look, and there's like turkey crap everywhere. Gosh. Stuff's knocked down, and then like in the corner, he would be like roosting on a ladder.
Oh gosh!
He was he was a pet, kind of like a pet but a nuisance at the same time.
Oh, totally. You're like, get the hell out of here.
But something picked him off. So.
Oh no. Well, hope you didn't name him.
His name was Dan.
Oh, Dan. Rip Dan.
Yeah. Hang on a second, please.
Go for it.
Has anybody got a phone charger? Anybody? My phone's like got 10% left here. I don't know where everybody went.
They all left you?
They all bounced.
Hopefully they didn't get bored of our conversation.
Yeah, probably. You got a phone charger? You got a cord. I had a full charge before I started.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think this app drains that battery pretty quick.
Cool, thank you. All right. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. The magic of editing, I can cut this out. No, but rest in peace to Dan the turkey. Every time you post a turkey video, it's coming up to your porch, I crack up, and it's highly entertaining. So keep those turkey videos coming.
Yeah, they're funny creatures. Like I don't know if it's. I was told that in Montana the winters are so harsh they can't survive unless they kind of stake out a farm where they can poach feed.
Oh wow.
Which that's certainly the case at my place. I mean, they're getting into everything all the time.
Yeah, I'll fatten them up and draw a turkey tag.
Oh man, if I know them, I can't kill them.
You grow too attached to the wild turkeys?
Well, and then they trust you too, so it's not really like hunting.
That's true. That's true. Like luring,
it's more like harvesting,
like luring them in.
But like I actually tagged a deer. I think it was on Saturday. Anyway, last week shot a deer, and the snow pushed some big bucks down. And I looked. I was outside, and I looked. And I was like, I don't know that one. And so I put a tag on it.
I don't know that one. Oh my gosh.
Oh, dude, I know all the deer by their
Oh
faces.
my
It's really
gosh. You're
bad.
one of those people who can spot a two different deer.
Yeah, there's some does that like one of the neighbors shot a doe in the ear because she kept stomping his
Oh
dogs.
my gosh.
He's got this little yapper
Oh
dog
my
that's
gosh.
walking around with a cast last summer. It gets gnarly because all these does come by and they drop their fawns,
Oh gosh.
and then they just want to take on anybody that comes near
Oh
them.
jeez.
But anyway, she got shot in the ear, so and she's kind of a you know what we call her Karen. And then
It's like the Wild West where you live, man. This is highly entertaining.
oh, it's Montana, dude. And we
Jeez.
got there's another one that somehow not for like from a neighbor. I think it will make eye contact with you because it knows you'll give it food. So like comes and just stares right into your eyes.
Like
And
it's like a human looking into my
yeah,
soul.
pretty much. You feel guilty for them, but
Jeez.
I try not to feed the deer because they just become a
Oh,
nuisance.
I'm
But
sure.
you know they know the chicken food's around, so
Right.
sooner or later they'll get
And
out
then they'll
after it.
call all their buddies and
But yeah, I mean, I'm the only person in the neighborhood who's not throwing lead at the deer, so they kind of hang out in my yard
because you know
anyway.
you're kind of like the safe place for them.
Yeah, it's the halfway house for deer,
Oh gosh, and turkeys.
unless I've never met you before, in which
Then
case, yeah,
then yeah, you're going in my freezer.
yep.
Mike, talk a little bit about your company, Upland Knife Company, that you got going on here. You're making some really really nice, high quality custom knives. Why don't you talk about that journey a little bit? What led you down that path?
Well, like any red-blooded American kid, I was a pyromaniac growing up, and that led into heating up metal and then banging on metal, and over the I don't know, probably before I even started hunting, I was messing around making knives and doing bushcraft and stuff. And then I'd make my own forge and half-ass this, do something wrong this way, like over and over and over again. Then finally the internet came along. I started learning how to make knives the right way.
Mm.
And it got to the point where I was like, what am I going to do with all these knives? Like, you just can't keep
Like
making
you can
them.
only have so many.
You can really only have so many. I mean, if that's like, a couple hundred, fine. But
Oh gosh.
at a certain point, it's like, there's some kind of natural progression. So I decided, I think I could do this, and started selling them here and there, and then just kind of decided to go all in with once I got onto Instagram and seeing all the other people making knives and all the inspiration out
Mm.
there. But like I said, I've been fiddling around with metal and fire since I was a little kid.
That's
Probably
cool.
way too young. But anyway, Upland knives, it's kind of, what it sounds like, just bird and trout knives. I do some big game knives, but not real often.
Okay.
And I just kind of like smaller knives that don't, I don't like belt knives. I like something I can put in my vest pocket,
Sure.
and they'll just they're fixed blade knives, but I don't want, the sheath to take up more room than the knife itself.
Sure.
And just, real handy little everyday carry knives that you can clean birds with or open boxes with, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And
No, they are.
I try to make them affordable.
Yeah, no, they are beautiful. I mean, some of the work you're putting into these handles and the blades. I mean, they look very nice. I will say that.
Well, I appreciate that.
What? Oh crap! I had thought I was going to ask you. Yeah, yeah. I guess just talk about the again. You're talking to Will here. I'm a dummy about how to make knives. Like, give me a dummy proof version. Like, I guess a brief overview. Like, what goes into making one of those knives?
All right, so the super simplified version is there's two ways you can go about making a knife. One is called stock removal, where you take billets of steel and you grind them into shape and cut them into shape, and then you heat treat them. And then there's forging, where you take a piece of metal and you heat it up and pound it into shape. I do both.
Okay.
And foraging is kind of like the arty side of things, because technically you don't really need to forge most things anymore, because it's like back in the day you'd have like a hunk of metal the shape of like a rock, right?
Okay.
And you're going to smash it and heat it up and pound it into the shape of a knife. Well, now you have billets of metal readily available, so it's kind of antiquated in some ways. So like the real arty stuff is usually forged.
Okay. And that's
Like I
where you
said,
dip. That's where like you dip it in like, or no, you heat it up really, really hot, right? And then you're pounding it to the shape you want.
yeah, you heat it up to till it's basically red hot,
Okay.
and then it becomes malleable, and you pound it. You basically use a kind of think of like it turns into Play-Doh, and you
Okay.
use your hammer is your thumb, and you're just kind of squishing it. You're literally squishing it.
Yeah, into the shape
Into the
and
shape you
what you.
want,
Okay.
and then generally after that you'll grind it into the finished shape, and that's super overly simplified foraging.
Sure.
And then you quench. It gets to a red hot stage. Usually you want to get it around 15. Like I use 80 CRV steel, which is a carbon steel, and you want to get it like 1550 degrees Fahrenheit, and you dip it into a type of oil which quenches it, and that makes it super hard.
Wow.
And then you cook it at like 400 degrees, which takes some of that hardness out, but makes it like after you dip it in oil, it's so brittle you can just tap it on the anvil and it'll snap.
Oh, wow.
Like almost like glass, a little tougher than glass.
Okay.
And then so if you cook it at 400 degrees, give or take for a couple hours, and that draws some of the hardness out of it. But like I said, generally, if I'm doing like a big art piece, I'll do foraging, just because I'm trying to get the most out of it.
Okay.
And with Damascus, you gotta forge it where you're just layering different types of metal together and then forge welding them, which is
so are you just, again, I guess, buying like pieces of steel then that you're forging, like chunks of it, and then okay, and then you kind of get into the size that you want and then forge it.
Yeah, it'll come in like stock, and you buy it dimensionally. And for forging, you just basically, instead of cutting it to shape, like if I was doing the other method, which is stock removal, you'd get like a 1/8 inch thick by 2 inch by 36 inch strip of metal, and you would cut that out and then grind in and drill holes and what have you.
Okay. All right. So then I got to ask about the handle then. So like how does the handle come into play? And because I'm like looking at some of your pictures right now, and like aren't some of your handles like wood or different materials? And they have some really cool designs on them. So like how are you incorporating the handle into the blade then?
So the handle, I usually most of the handle material I use is micarta, which is layers of fabric, usually canvas or G10 fiberglass. It's layers, and it's colored, and it's impregnated with resin, and that is there's pinholes going through that, and it has pins that hold it, and it's epoxied in place.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And sometimes there's bolts called Corby fasteners that have like a mechanical bond, so if that glue fails, it's not going to fall off.
Okay.
It's just kind of extra insurance. But I really like the micarta handles, and like the handle design itself comes from. I have big hands. I like wear a 2XL glove.
Oh, I'm the same. Same.
Yeah, so like I'm constantly like contorting my hands to try and different positions and stuff like that, and I don't really like your straight handled knives. It's just like so I try to get stuff that I can kind of use more as like an instrument rather than a tool.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm noticing a lot of these knives I'm looking at on your Instagram have a little bit of a curve to them. Nothing like super aggressive, but
yeah, like I really want you to be able to get like your index finger behind the tip, and then your three other fingers underneath, and just kind of use it as like a scalpel for really fine work. Like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like to be able to have like control, like a scalpel over my knives, and cut out breast meat or I guess that's kind of passe these days to cut out just the breast meat and the legs and what have you, not pluck the bird. But
Sure.
that's the way I do it.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. What did you like? I guess how long have you been at this? Did you have this back in when you were in Washington, or did you just start this when you guys moved to Montana?
I started selling them like professionally, air quotes, back in Washington. I want to say 2018 was when I was finally like, yeah, I can do this and charge money for it.
Okay.
And I've been going strong ever since. I've been really fortunate to have some awesome customers and amazing support.
That's awesome. And now, do you kind of like make them in batches, or what's the best way for someone to want to get one of these? Because
So I like
they're really popular. Because every time I go on your site, sometimes I'll look, but I'm gonna grab one, and you've been sold out a couple of times. I doesn't know. Do you make them in batches, or do you just kind of make them as you go?
So I kind of a little bit of both. My philosophy is basically most knife makers will take a backlog for like sometimes a year, 2, 3 years if they're really popular, and take deposits. I hate sitting on people's money. I mean, it just bugs me.
Sure.
And it's frustrating. You don't want to cough up a deposit and then have to wait 2 or 3 years to actually get the knife you're after. So I kind of try to keep things random and kind of like hunting. You pop on Instagram and you see a knife and it's like, oh crap, I got a shot.
Sure.
And, so far so good. I kind of feel like that keeps the playing field pretty even.
Yeah, you do like a surprise drop, like, hey, they're here, jump on, grab them.
Snooze, you lose.
That's cool.
But I am going to be taking limited deposits. Like right now, I have 5 customs that I'm working on. And once I get done with those, I'm going to open back up and try to take maybe 5 more before Christmas. And people can get, they can order one of my favorites that I've been putting out or something they have in mind. And we can talk about, options and whatnot. But,
so you'll do custom work as well? If someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this size, color, whatever, like you'll work with that?
Exactly, yeah. And if somebody's like, hey, I really want you to make this other guy's knife, I'll say, I'll put my own spin on it. I'm not going to copy somebody's knife.
Sure.
But hit me up on Instagram or through my website, and, that's the best way to get a hold of me. I will, like I said, for the custom options, I have a feature on my website where you can buy the deposit. And so that automatically locks you into the next month or 2 time frame. So
nice. Okay.
Rather than like, hey, do you have any openings? You can just look and see instantly, oh, he's got a deposit ready. So you can jump on that and then contact me and we can talk about making whatever you had in mind.
That's great. How long does it take to make a knife for you? Like just take an average knife, nothing crazy. Like what's the average time frame from like the, again, very beginning process to shipping it out?
If it's not hunting season, it takes a lot less time. But hunting season kind of cuts into it. I would say during the off season, there's various processes I got to go through. So probably, I think the fastest I would get one out would be 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So nothing too crazy.
I try to I try to do batches. So number one, if I'm not like just making a one-off, and number two, if I screw up, I have something to back up. But realistically, it's probably more like a month and a half to get a knife, which I can live with. I feel like that's pretty reasonable to get a custom,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a high quality, custom, handmade knife. I mean, I think anyone would be happy to wait that long for this quality of product for sure.
Yeah, and I try to keep them around like $200 or less for my general ones, just because I feel like that's reasonable, and I want working stiffs to be able to afford something handmade. And that's a really good price for a knife, that's for sure. What's your most popular model, I guess, of your kind of your standard ones? I think the sharp tail has become the most popular one, and
Okay.
that's I tried to, you can see it on the website. I kind of tried to emulate a sharp tail grouse with some of the features, and then I laser burn a tail feather onto the side. But I think
Oh, cool.
that's gotten a lot of love lately. And then real close second's just the wing shooter, which is the one I think that I make the most out of. And that's just like a kind of I think that's a larger bird and trout knife. I used it to dress the deer I shot last weekend.
Okay.
It's totally big enough to take on that task.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I think those are the two most popular ones. But like I said, I can make, and I'm making a first ever gut hook for somebody, and
Oh,
I don't know. I was really against it. Now I'm not so against it anymore. He's really.
okay. Okay.
I was like, dude, I don't want to experiment on a customer. And he's like,
Sure,
oh,
sure.
please do it. And I was like, okay.
Is it gonna require a lot more time to into the, I guess, forging process, or?
It doesn't require that much more time, but it's the time that's taken is I'm really thinking about everything I do before I do it.
Hmm.
So like I'm really dragging my ass on it because I just want to make sure that I don't make a bad choice and like, oh, the gape is too much for the gut hook or this or
Sure. Okay.
that. Um, honestly, I could drag my ass forever on a knife till it's like it's beyond reasonable.
Yeah,
But
no, you're thinking it through. Two more questions I want to ask you on this, so I don't forget. Sharpening a knife. What are some do's and don'ts with sharpening knives in general, but I guess your knives as well specifically, because there's probably some like don't do that things out there, right?
there's all the obvious don't do that. My favorite saying is that the best way to keep a knife sharp is to never let it get dull.
Oh, okay.
So if you get one of my knives brand new, or any knife brand new, or you just put a wicked edge on one of your own, don't grind it into the dirt until it's a butter knife. You know, give it a little touch up when you're done using it. And then this next part here, I think will change a lot of people's lives. Probably like it might ruin some people's lives depending on how into some guys get really into knife sharpening. I mean, it's a rabbit hole. I prefer to use a strop, and like
You're gonna have to explain that.
so like imagine every gangster movie you've seen where they're at the barber and the guy's running the razor on a piece of leather.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of what I like. So
Oh, wow.
basically, anybody can make one in 2 minutes. Take an old leather belt and glue it to a board with the fuzzy side up. So like the part of the leather belt that's
Wait
touching
a
your
second. You're
skin.
saying you're sharpening a knife with leather?
Oh yeah, they've been
What?
doing it for centuries.
Wow.
You can do it with cardboard.
No way.
Yeah, because and now this, you're not sharpening it, you're honing it.
Okay. Again, kind of like on a continual basis, like after you use it, give it a couple runs on this.
Yep. And
Wow.
so you take the leather, glue it down to a board or nail it to a board, whatever, fuzzy side up, the part of the belt that is pointing towards your skin, right? The
Okay.
inside of the belt. That's pointing up, that's facing upwards. Go to Ace Hardware and get some green buffing compound. It's in the welding section, and
Okay.
it's like a green wax bar, and then smear that into the leather. And then use that, watch some YouTube videos. I'm not going to spend the next hour explaining
Sure,
this,
sure.
but it's way simpler than you think.
My mind is
And you
blown
just
right
use
now.
that a couple times after using your knife, and it'll bring the edge back.
And
Now,
just
if
kind of
you're like
running
trying
it,
to
just
cut,
kind of alternating sides, one direction.
yep, like
Wow.
imagine you're. I'm terrible at describing this. YouTube
I,
it.
No, yeah,
YouTube
I think
strop.
I got a good picture of it.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
change your life. It
if
really
anyone's
will.
interested, yeah, YouTube that sucker. That is fascinating. That surprised me for sure. So that's kind of your go-to, like keep a knife, keeping it sharp. It's doing that, right?
Keeping it sharp, because like
Wow.
if you imagine that edge is the edge is a really just super thin piece of metal. Like
Yeah.
if you do it right, that edge is just as thin as it gets, and as you're cutting with it, it gets all bent out of shape. And the more bent out of shape you let it get, the more it'll break,
Okay.
and it'll break down and become dull. So like if you can strop it and use that strop to kind of put that edge back in line, it'll keep it sharper longer. And the buffing compound actually has I'm not sure what kind of grit it has in it. I think it's either aluminum oxide. It has some type of grit in it that will
Okay.
actually sharpen
Wow.
any little burrs and
This
stuff.
this podcast just took a turn. It just took a turn. I we just
But
blew a
you
lot of
know,
people's minds.
and it's a general thing. Like some steels are better than others.
Okay.
This one kid brought me a stainless steel, which stainless like most of my knives are carbon steel, which hold an edge usually better than most stainless steels.
Okay.
But this kid brought me this just rancid old pocket knife that was, I mean, it looked like it was serrated. It had so many chips in
Oh
it.
gosh.
And we hit it with the strop a bunch of times, and the parts that weren't chipped became razor sharp again.
No way.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I was kind
Wow.
of surprised myself.
Wow.
But yeah, look up stropping.
Okay.
And if you're
That's
struggling
fascinating.
with knife sharpening, you know, some people really dig using the Japanese water stones and spending thousands of dollars on their sharpening gear.
Oh
But
gosh.
if you're not one of those people and you've always struggled with it, look up stropping.
All right. Dang. Okay.
Or hit me
Okay.
up on Instagram and I'll try
Yeah.
to explain better.
You should do a little you should do like an Instagram video on this.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Or also
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about selling strops just to,
Oh yeah.
because there's a lot of people that aren't DIY inclined.
Sure.
And
Sure.
but it's just so simple to make one. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get much more simple than just gluing a piece of leather to wood and
Right.
going
Good.
for it.
That's awesome. One more thing I was going to ask you about, and we got a couple closing things I want to get to, so I got to kind of wrap this up here. But I was going to ask you about your, you started doing some shirts, right, and stickers.
Yeah.
What is the, I got to ask you, what's the Cuppo Pigeon?
Oh, well, the cup of pigeon.
You got to explain that.
So I was back to my Gordon Setter puppy that the bird launchers freaked him out. I was trying to think of a way to launch a bird without noise. And I realized the pigeon fits perfectly in a McDonald's Coke cup. And so you stick the pigeon in the cup and you tie a string to it and you give it a good sharp pull and the pigeon flies away. And which also came in handy because like, nobody could buy a pigeon launcher to save their lives.
Oh, no, they're out of stock everywhere.
Yeah. And so it's literally better than nothing. But,
you sound like a pretty good DIY guy.
Yeah, I'd rather make stuff than buy it usually because I don't have money, so I'm usually making it. But
man.
The cup of pigeon. Some people think that it might cause more problems than it solves, but I mean, come on,
it makes a freaking great T-shirt. I gotta say that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
that design on that was every time I see that I chuckle.
That's my wife's design, by the way.
Oh, is it? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
She worked hard on that. It was my idea, but her design. So
I love it. Well, tell her well done because that was very, very nice. Well, Mike, one of the things, as you probably know, I like to wrap up here with. I'd like to ask you about what piece of advice would you give the rookie uplander out there? Maybe someone listening to this right now is kind of in the heart of their first season. Maybe they just picked up their first dog. Just what's a piece of advice you would like to share with someone out there listening?
Give up now. No,
get out while you can.
Get out while you can before it's too late, because this is going to take over your life. I'd say the thing I always tell people online when they ask me, for this or that, anytime you're hunting any bird species, hunt structure. So if you're hunting chucker, like you would obviously go to the tops of the hills and whatnot. If you're hunting sharptails, like I tell people to hunt sharptail just like chucker. Like
Hmm.
find a little rise, and just don't go walking out into the flat vastness of the prairie. Go find a little rise. The birds are going to be in position to watch something coming from a ways off. And that applies to just about every upland game bird I can think of. Is like, just don't go out there into some, endless space that has nothing really going for it. Look for some slight, subtle difference that
Hmm.
birds might want to take advantage of,
Hmm.
whether it's to watch for predators or to feed. They're always watching for predators, so any type of thing that they can put to their advantage, they will.
Yeah.
If you're hunting for huns, like I don't know how many advertisements I see, or not advertisements, stories where they're hunting the stubble fields. Don't hunt
Hmm.
the stubble fields, hunt the edges.
Hmm.
Always hunt, figure out what kind of structure there is out there, like a bass fisherman would,
Hmm.
and hunt that.
Yeah. That's really, really good. Solid advice right there, I will say.
Yeah, and then leave the vast emptiness for the guys that are pros. And if they want to go tackle that, they can.
Sure. Dang, that's good, man. I love it. All right, sir. A couple rapid fire questions for you, and we'll bring this thing home.
All right.
So here we go. First one. For you, Mike, what came first? The dog, the gun, or the bird?
Dog 100%.
Dog,
Bird.
okay.
Bird
Kind of
close second.
okay, close second. I kind of knew you were going to say that. Mike, what gun are you carrying into the field and why?
I started carrying a Benelli ultralight about 10 years ago, and I love it because when I point at stuff, it falls out of the sky pretty reliably.
Wait, that's what a shotgun's meant for? You just point and shoot?
Yeah, like I can actually hit stuff with it. And then part of me, like people give me a lot of BS about not having a classic side by side or this or that,
Oh, sure.
and I kind of enjoy that. So
You kind of like being the rebel.
yeah, I like being the rebel. So
Do you ever get crap for having a Benelli?
no, Benellis are awesome.
I know. I agree. I think they're fantastic guns. A Benelli was my first gun I ever owned, and I think they're awesome. I know people are like, "Oh, shoot a Benelli." Like, yeah,
Yeah, I don't get the whole fanboy stuff or the anti fanboy stuff. I got a Benelli Super Black Eagle for duck hunting, and both of them have always been extremely reliable, and that's all I
yeah,
care about.
yeah,
Is you know reliability. If it doesn't go boom every time I pull the trigger, then I don't need
totally.
it.
Now, what good is it? All right, next one. Favorite dog breed besides the ones you own. So it can't be any dog you have owned in the past or currently own.
I'm I hate admitting this out loud on a podcast, but
It's out there for the world, man.
you said it's a safe place. I'm
It
really
is.
intrigued by these English cockers.
Okay.
I almost got one like years and years ago when there was a heck of a lot less in the field,
Sure.
but I'm just like I'm not 100% convinced that they're going to live up to the hype, but God, I'm really thinking about getting one.
You and the other half of America
Oh,
of
I know.
the hunting people.
I know. I normally, if everybody else likes something, I like to
Sure.
go the opposite way.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
these cockers intrigue me.
yeah. No, they look cool, man. They look cool. Well, that's a popular answer, but it's a good one. I think there's from what I've seen again online. I don't think I've actually ever seen one in person, to be honest. So I can't speak for that, but I think they look cool. Everyone raves about them. So
My neighbors have two, like from a really well-known kennel, and they're just wonderful little dogs. But they say
yeah,
they're super clingy.
yeah. Someone else has. I think Gary Shaw. He was talking to me on the podcast while we were talking. The dog was like wouldn't leave his feet. He's like, look, it's like like won't leave me alone.
Yeah, so that's my biggest concern with cockers is like,
Yeah,
will I be able to leave it in the house,
sure.
go somewhere else?
Right, right. All right, man. A couple more. One piece of gear you would never hunt without.
It's got to be my Garmin.
Ah, good call there.
I mean, it's the most obvious one, right?
Oh, that's a good.
But yeah, the Garmin, I live and die by that thing. I would I leave my gun behind often and only take the Garmin just for training situations. But
Yeah.
they'll save your dog's life. They'll save your. I years ago I had a dog get lost overnight, and I wouldn't have found. The Garmin lost the signal, but I wouldn't have found him without that Garmin. So.
Wow.
But yeah, I think the second most important piece of equipment that I wouldn't have because the Garmin's so obvious is I think I use those Surefire earplugs a lot.
Okay.
They save my hearing.
Are they some electronic ones or just like
No,
phone
they're
ones?
little $14. They have those baffles in them that block it. They'll let you hear most sounds, but they'll block out gunshots.
Oh, nice.
And I think they're called just get on Amazon, look at Surefire ear protection, and they're super comfortable. They never fall out.
That's awesome. I got to start wearing those more because I've been really bad about wearing. I just have like either the orange ones. I have some I got off of Amazon. They're like $70 on Amazon. They're not electronic, but they have this like some kind of filter technology where you can kind of hear stuff still. But
I'll send you a link for these ones. I can't remember the name right off the top of my head. I guarantee you won't spend $14 on anything better.
That's nice. Yeah, send me a link if you can. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
or, I can look them up too. But yes, take care of your hearing, people. It's important. All right, just a couple more here. This is a new one I wrote in here. If you could have, okay, this one's specific for you, Mike. If you could only have one style of the knives you make, which model would it be?
it's got to be the wing shooter.
Okay.
It's just my most versatile out of all of them.
Your go-to.
Yeah, opening boxes to opening deer. You're not going to have to compromise really. I mean, like the only thing I wouldn't really do with it is try to quarter up an elk, even though I'm sure. If you had sharpening tools with it, you could probably do it.
Okay.
It would probably be miserable with a knife that small.
Right.
But yeah, I really enjoy the wing shooter. That's I think one of the first ones I made too.
Nice. Very cool. Your go-to snack on a hunting trip.
Go-to snack. So Northwest Wing Shooters turned me on to Pioneer pies.
What in the world is that? They're
New Zealand style hand pies, like meat pies, right?
Oh my gosh.
They are amazing.
A mini, like you get it at a gas station or a grocery store, you order them?
Right now you can get them in Boise, right, if you're in Idaho, but you can get them at Albertsons in the deli section.
Okay.
So you can't just find them anywhere in Albertsons. They're in the deli section. They're not
in the deli section, people.
It's pie-o-near, and they make like steak and cheese.
Oh my gosh!
Northwest Wing Shooters.
Do you have to heat them up?
Oh yeah, you wrap them in foil and put them on a grill.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm pretty sure you could wrap them in foil and put them on your engine block
and heat them up that way.
By the time you get to your hunting spot, it'd be perfect. But man, they're good.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Well, I don't know how I'll get one, but maybe someday. Maybe they'll make their way down to Denver. Yeah, we have. Yeah, we just have Kroger down here.
Well, maybe you can order them online. But yeah. Pioneer pies, man.
All right, I love it. And then last one, beverage of choice after a hunt.
Alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Yeah, you can go whatever you like.
I'm generally drinking sugar-free Rockstar.
Oh, Rockstar. Oh.
Yeah.
Whew, that's still a thing?
It's still a thing.
Oh my gosh. That just gave me the goosebumps.
Yeah, it'll give you goosebumps for sure. No, like I really like it's from back in the day, but yeah. I like the sugar-free Rockstars. If it's alcoholic, then I've been really digging the Montana Whiskey Company's Blackfoot bourbon. That stuff is yummy.
Oh, okay. I've not tried that.
I think you can only get it in Montana.
Oh, son of a.
Yeah, it comes in a nice metal container, so you can have it rolling around the back of your truck.
Oh wow. Oh, that's awesome. I love a good bourbon. Usually the bourbon I drink says it's made in Canada, so
Ew.
it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
Mike,
not a real big aficionado on bourbon.
no, I'm not either. I just buy whatever Costco has.
There you
Um, it's good stuff, man. Mike, this has been a blast, man. Thank you for jumping on here and just sharing your story and your knowledge and your passion. Love hearing about the Gordons and your company, and it's been really fun. So thank you for doing this.
go. Absolutely, I appreciate it. I had a good time. And next time you see Jeremy, punch him in the shoulder.
I could punch him in the face for you. We're close.
Yeah. I'm not saying face punch him. Just
okay. All right. Well, I'll just take it to another. I'll take it to another level.
Sounds good.
I haven't talked to him in a couple days. I wonder if he's alive.
Oh, I bet he's not going anywhere.
He's a hardy fella. He's
a lot.
Keeps on trucking. He is a lot.
A little bit extra, that guy.
Try staying with him for a week. Mike, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Maybe if they have questions, want to check out your knives, what's the best way to connect with you?
Most surefire way is hit me up on Instagram. Second best way, hit me up on the website.
Okay.
And Instagram. Sorry, I'm talking over you.
No, sorry. It's getting late here. I'm getting sleepy. I was gonna say, everyone get your Cupo Pigeon T-shirt. Those things are bomb.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. It's been a blast, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, that's a wrap of episode 67 with Mike Thompson from Upland Knife Company. Mike, thank you again for just for your time, your knowledge, your wisdom, and your sense of humor, man. I truly had a blast chat with you on that one. So thank you again. Hey guys, don't forget, if you are enjoying the podcast, would you do me a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. Those reviews and rating systems really help the algorithm gods of Apple and the podcast world to help get this show out there to more listeners, more hunters, more bird dog lovers just like you. So that would mean a ton. Also, share it on social media. If you would take 2 seconds and share any episode, could be this one, could be a past episode, share it on your social media, whether it's a post, a story, and just say what you enjoyed about that episode, what inspired you, what did you take away from that episode. Tag the Upland Rookie Podcast. I'd love to reshare some of those as well. Again, it would just mean a lot to help get this show out there more. Follow us along on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. YouTube, I have a couple videos up there, nothing crazy yet. Just been a little busy here, but anyways, guys, hope everyone's doing well. Thanks so much again for the support, for tuning in. Love doing these. Love chatting with you guys each week, and means a lot. So anyways, until next time, go put some miles on those boots and follow your favorite bird dog. Take care.